Well, good morning. We're here for our weekly board session. It is Wednesday, February 6, 2019. We're here in the Senator hearing room, and if you will join us for the Pledge of Allegiance, as we always do, let's go say it. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Well, and we have nobody signed up for public comment, and we are going to have a very quick and short board session today. So I guess we'll go straight into our consent calendar.
Okay, Mr. Chair, under the consent calendar, Public Works, schedule the final consideration to adopt administrative ordinance granting zone change comprehensive plan amendment case number 18-003 Perez for February 13th, 2019. And receive notice of hearings officer's decision recommending approval of zone change in case 18-005 J, Concert and Sons LLC. Mr. Chair, I move that we adopt the consent calendar.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? You sure you don't want to have any discussion to make this thing go a little bit longer? Okay. Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Okay, that's done. We have one action item on the agenda today. It's Public Works to consider approval of an amendment number 3 to contract for services with Covanta Marion Inc. to add $420,750 for the processing of leachate. That was a word I could say. Ryan, welcome.
Welcome. Thank you, Commissioners. Appreciate it. Again, exciting topic this morning of leachate, but Brian May, Public Works Environmental Services. So before you is amendment number 3 for your consideration and approval that allow Marion County Environmental Services to kind of do two things. One is to dispose of leachate from the ash monofill at Covanta, which is a new addition to this agreement. The second is to just limit or reduce the amount of supplemental waste that will be going to Covanta for the rest of the contract. Diving deeper into the leachate, I'm not sure everybody knows exactly what leachate is. That is a water that percolates through our ash monofill and is collected within our leachate collection system. It comes from two sources: rain that hits the monofill, and then the water that's used to quench the ash as it comes out of Covanta, basically to put the fire out after our waste is incinerated. So that's how leachate is generated. For over the last 15 years, our leachate has been transported to Finley Butte landfill near Boardman for disposal. This has been a fantastic relationship. They've done a great job for us. They're very helpful, but it comes at a high cost at 26 cents a gallon. So we've been exploring other options to basically dispose of this at a cheaper rate. Working with Covanta, they've been piloting kind of their liquid waste disposal technology for a few years, and it's new here at Covanta Marion, where they can actually inject the liquid waste into kind of their flues to reduce the heat and temperature, which will actually allow them to incinerate more waste. We want to kind of do a pilot phase with our leachate because it's known to be very corrosive. So we're looking to kind of step into this easily with a few loads, assure that we don't cause issues at Covanta, and then possibly increase this. The dollar volume before you at the $420,000 would be kind of a full-blown program. If we were to haul 3 loads a day, 5 days a week until the end of the contract is September 20th of this year. We don't anticipate needing that authority, but we just have it here just in case. At the same time, we want to make sure that we do take advantage because it is significant savings of almost 11 cents a gallon over our current disposal option, which would be great for environmental services funds. So at this point, staff recommends approval of the amendment.
Questions for Brian? Sam?
Well, I've got a series of thoughts, maybe questions, but Brian, maybe go into a little bit more, if you know, and I think I do, but the history of how we've done with that. I'll start with that. For example, for a long period of time, it was just applied to farmland nearby.
Correct.
And then, so that would I would ask you to get into the makeup of this, that it's mostly a sodium and low grade, not a lot of other contaminants.
Mm-hmm.
Then I believe it was taken to Toledo and
Correct.
eventually mixed with their effluent and out in the ocean with no detrimental effects or concerns. I don't know why that ended. I think I do, because they quit using that method themselves there. So a little bit more about the makeup. Let's just do that. Let's go history first. Anything else that I was wrong about how we've done it in the past?
No. Your first point on irrigation, kind of the whole landfilling and leachate irrigation has changed in 1999. Oregon was the last state that allowed kind of beneficial reuse of landfill leachate to be irrigated basically back on farmland for nutrient uptake. That ended, and at that point, all the landfills had to kind of search for options. Some went and tried treating it themselves, and others, like us, sought other options. And then that's when we turned and went to GP Toledo to discharge through their treatment system. And as you mentioned, Commissioner, their process changed, and that went away. And then at that time, we went out for an RFP, and Finley Butte came up with the option of doing the solidification. They're a dry, arid landfill. Moisture is a benefit to them in their decomposition process. It's been a great relationship. It's just a long haul, literally out to Boardman. So the cost is pretty extensive for us.
So a little bit more about the composition. Is there more on top of your head than the sodium, any other contaminants?
That is the largest piece. Our leachate is unique in the sense that it's going through a purely a monofill of ash.
I'm going to interrupt you here because it isn't going through normal household solid waste.
Correct.
It's going through a treated ash.
Correct.
Okay.
And that's why the constituent is almost all sodium. It's just basically the makeup of that ash. Leachate that goes through a standard, municipal solid waste landfill has a lot different makeup and doesn't have that concentration of sodium. And that's the limiting factor, those high
I'm kind of
salt
joking
contents.
about this next thing, but I was thinking about it driving in. I know the chemicals they put on roadways are mostly sodium. Maybe that's a better way. Would you look into that for me?
Yes,
The
it's funny because this is actually used at Finley Butte as a dust suppression on their roadways. So
I didn't know that was okay.
it's just kind of that perception.
The cooling at Covanta is important to me. You've already talked about that. And then the last I'll ask you about is explain to people and us what we do to minimize, and maybe you kind of did, but go some more on minimize the accumulation, the volume of the material itself coming into the system.
As far as the
capping and everything else that doesn't let water go through, or what other diversions you've got?
You bet. So the monofill itself, we had a very large footprint here a few years back when we were doing the metal recovery program because the operation literally sat on the landfill. So over the last few years, we've been actually accepting small amounts in during the summer months when it's dry, so we reduce that impact of rainwater becoming leachate through our system. But we've what I call buttoned it up tighter. We use a 12 mil plastic basically to cover the landfill and seal it up as much as we can just to avoid that generation. So again, part on that almost 2.8 million gallons that we could possibly take to Covanta. The good news is that our landfill is probably, or our landfill lagoon storage, leachate storage cell is at the lowest it's been in over a decade at this time of year because our generation is down so significant, and luckily enough it coincides with some dry weather, which definitely benefits us.
Then the one last I've had, and I probably forgot, well it is, and I don't know if in your cost, your 11 cents a gallon savings, it certainly sounds more appealing to drive a 20-mile round trip versus several hundred.
Correct. Yeah, and that's one of the biggest issues is that risk component of going clear to Boardman and almost a 200 plus one-way trip. The risk of either a vehicle accident or something like that. This is a lot more comfortable from that shorter transportation.
Well, just the expense too, and
Expense.
the environmental of
Yep.
400 miles of truck
Versus
exhaust.
40, yes.
All right,
And we
that-
are continuing to look at other options, and one we're working with right now is the city of Salem to possibly have them treat our leachate, which would be a huge benefit, and again, some additional cost savings.
Wonderful. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner, do you have any questions?
No, I think I'm good.
Okay. So, thanks, Brian. I had a question because we were taking it out to Boardman, correct?
Mhm.
To a landfill.
Mhm.
So don't landfills create their own leachate?
Western Oregon landfills definitely create a lot of
Because of the
leachate.
rain, because of the moisture.
Exactly. When you get to the east side, once you cross the Cascades, you're into a much drier, arid climate. I believe Boardman's rainfall is probably more in the 7 to 9 inches a year, where we're more in the 45 inches a year.
Right.
You know, 4 feet versus 9 inches is considerable difference. So they are hurting for that moisture.
So they basically absorb it in their landfill?
Yeah,
And it doesn't-
so
Okay,
they actually built a storage lagoon themselves for us in the winter months when they don't use as much, which benefits us, allows us to continually dispose, and then they use it during the peak season when they need to.
okay. And then I was just looking, you said it saves us 11 cents. If we, on this contract, the 420,000, if we exercise the full amount, I was just going backwards trying to figure out, I divided that by 15 cents a gallon, comes out to 2,805,000 gallons.
Right.
Over what period are you estimating, if we went full bore, what's the period that would take to use 2.8 million gallons?
That was basically looking at the extent of just to the end of this contract of September 20th. So if we went full in, right now we have an inventory of about 3.4 million gallons in our lagoon, and then we're also generating, daily in a sense. So that would almost allow us to draw our pond down to zero.
Between now and September 2020,
Correct.
so
And
over a year.
again, we're stepping in cautiously because of the corrosive nature that we're not going to go all in. We're going to kind of step into this easily.
And then I did notice in the contract that we are required to test the chemical content of the leachate. I think that's what Commissioner's question was, what other materials, and it said we had to provide the amounts of certain things that are in
Yep.
there, so that's just.
And that's part of our standard
That's a
protocol.
part of EPA or DEQ?
DEQ, and we do that already.
Yep.
So those are basically our testing parameters that we're providing them.
So if my math is right, and we did 2.8 million gallons, this contract will save us $308,550.
That'd be correct.
Oh, good, I should
So
have been a major in math.
Yeah, even though it shows as an increased expense on this contract, it would definitely be a reduction on the other side.
Right, got it.
And with some other benefits that
Right.
I talked about.
Okay.
Correct.
Anything else?
So Chair Cameron, I'd make a motion that we do approve the amendment, can't read it, number 3 to the contract for services with Covanta to add $420,750 for processing of leachate.
I second the motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Okay, we're done with that action item.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Brian, for all you do. Appreciate it. We are done with our work on our agenda
Read the
today.
calendar, then I might have something to say, and that scares me already.
Yeah. You want to go ahead and
Read the calendar?
read the calendar, Commissioner? Sure.
Okay. This morning, Commissioner Cameron and I were at the SVNCA Commercial Real Estate Economic Forum at the Salem Convention Center at 7 in the morning.
Good form.
It was a good
Yeah.
forum. And then we were here for board session in the Center hearing room at 9 o'clock. At noon today, we have a Woodburn Marion County meeting at Luis's Taqueria at 523 Front Street in Woodburn. At 5:30 this evening, we have a Marion County Fair Board meeting in the Commissioner's Boardroom on the 5th floor of this building. On Thursday, tomorrow, at 7 in the morning, we have a Salem Chamber Public Policy meeting located at the Salem Area Chamber of Commerce at 1110 Commercial Street Northeast in Salem. Tomorrow, the 7th, at 9:30 in the morning, we have a Department Head Elected Officials meeting located in the Commissioner's Boardroom on the 5th floor of this building. Tomorrow, February 7th, at noon, we have a Public Works Chili Cook-Off located in Building 1 at 5155 Silverton Road Northeast in Salem. On February 7th at 1:30, we have a Board of Commissioners Chief Administrative Officer meeting and an executive session if needed pursuant to ORS 192.660. It's located in the Silverton Conference Room on the 5th floor of this building. On February 11th, Monday at 8 in the morning, we have the Association of Oregon Counties Steering and Legislative Committee and Board meeting located at the Local Government Center, 1201 Court Street Northeast in Salem. On Monday, February 11th at 4:30, we have the Association of Oregon Counties reception located at Bentley's Grill, 291 Liberty Street Southeast in Salem. And on February 12th, on Tuesday at 7:30 in the morning, we have the Staten and Marion County meeting located at the Covered Bridge Cafe, 510 North Third Avenue in Staten. Oh, but we got more.
It's a long week.
Uh-oh, I thought we were done.
On Tuesday, February 12th at 9 in the morning, we have a work session on Marion County Veteran Service Office Review located in the Silverton Conference Room on the 5th floor of this building. On February 12th, Tuesday at 1 in the afternoon, we have a work session on a solid waste update.
Thought we just had it. I thought we knew everything about solid waste.
I guess there's more.
That's just the lychee part.
Oh,
I guess there's more. That's going to be in the Silverton Conference Room on the 5th floor of this building. On Wednesday, February 13th at 9 in the morning, we have a board session located in this room, in this building. On February 13th at noon, we have a SEDCOR monthly business lunch located at Broadway Commons, 1300 Broadway Street Northeast in Salem. And then on February 13th, Wednesday at 3 in the afternoon, we have the Marion County Extension and 4-H Service District meeting located in the Silverton Conference Room on the 5th floor of this building. And now we are done.
Thank you for doing that.
I do.
You had something you wanted to say.
But I want Bruce to be ready to say, you know what, this isn't on the agenda, don't get too involved, but I don't know when we have another opportunity to, at least for me, to make a couple of thoughts. And the subject is the vote in the Salem Council on the third bridge will be happening next Monday, so we won't have another opportunity. What's going through my mind, I've been asked to come and testify again. I believe there's been 2 other times. I don't think they care, but I will be going. It's just, and I think people ought to realize it just isn't a Salem issue. It's probably the most important issue that I can think of I don't know if that's too big a statement, but it's certainly an important issue for our whole region. You know,
In our lifetime.
We won't get another chance.
I know.
It affects Salem and Marion County and Polk County, Kaiser, and this takes too long to get into, but I got in trouble 12, 15 years ago. It had to do with raising the Corden Road overpass. And I said, no, if you're going to put some money into raising it, then replace it. It's still something ought to be. I got jumped from all over the state because of the importance of east-west traffic. And they came to me and said, you are the cause of stopping freight moving from Bend to the coast. So it kind of brings that all into me, how important it is. And I just hope the counselors there will take it seriously and look for the good of the region and not their personal environmental views, and that's really what I think's the bottom of it. So I'll be there, probably no more effective than right now, but it's just important.
Absolutely. Thanks for being there.
You gonna go?
I forgot
Yeah,
safety.
I may too.
I don't know. It depends on how my Monday goes. So
What else is there Monday? What am I forgetting?
I'm starting out early and traveling, and I'll be here by noon. But I do want to be there. I want to be there to support. I just I really appreciate what you just said, that it's a regional project, and I understand the overpass issue because we needed that. We needed all those bridges to be at the certain level to get that traffic east to west, and you being criticized. But I know what your point was, because every time I drive over that bridge, it's an accident ready to happen because it's so narrow. You can't get a bicycle over there. You can't get a pedestrian. No, I'm serious.
No,
I mean,
I
right.
know.
It's a safety issue.
Well, but think of what's happening there too.
And this
we
is a
knew
safety,
it was coming. You know,
and this is a safety issue. This is not only an economic issue, but it's a safety issue. And how many times in my life in Salem, and I've been here, permanently since 1988. Of course, people criticize me because I live in Detroit now, but lived here for 30 years basically. And I used to live in West Salem, and it was not that big of a problem. But in the 30 years of growth, and it's not going to stop growing. And we have to be smart about it. And I think the the whole requirements that came back, when we took that land use action,
Yes,
action, it moved forward, and there was a challenge, and the challenge came back that we had to, or they had to, restrict the bridge by a lane or something like that, and add bike lanes and do all this other stuff, which was a reasonable compromise. And here you've got a group of people who are the minority, however, they've been able to convince others that I've heard these people say, we're in favor of a bridge, just not this one. Well, we know if you stop this bridge, there will not be a bridge built. We'll be looking down from heaven if that's where I get to go. But, it's absolutely that critical. And I know that there's people out there today trying to line up to come in and testify on Monday to change minds. And I hope that there's some miracle that would change some mind, because the time and the money, $8 million has been spent on this thing?
13 years, and maybe I got too much invested personally. I was involved in all that 13 years.
And some of the criticism is saying things like, well, Salem shouldn't pay for the whole thing. Well, nobody's talked about Salem paying for the whole thing. And I think this would just allow the project to continue to move forward. It doesn't say when it's going to get built, doesn't say how it's going to.
Or even if, but you have a pathway.
Yeah, and let the citizens, if there's a portion that Salem's going to pay for, let the citizens decide that in a public process that, let them vote for that. But it's a regional project, and you think of our ag business going back and forth, you think of the timber business going back and forth, and just the tourism that goes back and forth, and those bridges are just really critical. Our capacity, and we talk about this, the capacity of our ferry up in Wheatland is full bore.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's over 1,000 cars going, and
It's
then
like $250,000 a year,
and then we hit a bunch of rain, and you got to shut it down.
or too low.
Right. So I hope
Yeah.
something changes, and I guess I should be there and say my piece, but.
I'll try to be nice, but I'm quite invested.
I've heard it said that the only thing of real value can give somebody is time. And I think about the bridge and how much time people spend sitting in their cars, how much time, businesses spend trying to get goods across the river. And I just think we have a real opportunity to give people time to solve this problem and let people be at home with their families, be at work, be doing productive things for our community, not sitting in traffic. And I really hope that we do that.
I wanted to comment on that, if I do, and I'm planning on it, so I'll be repeating it here. But that time thing, I've heard their counselors, they do an analysis. I've seen it on the State Street discussion. They say, okay, if we do this, it takes, and I'll make a number up, 27 seconds longer. I mean, is it really worth all this trouble for 27 seconds? But that's not, and I got to talk to some traffic engineers, that's not it. It's 27 seconds times thousands, and it's 27 seconds that goes through the whole city. Look at what we come because of their taking lanes away every time. Can you leave this building at 5 o'clock? No, and that's when traffic's going good and the bridges are working good. So it isn't just 27 seconds or 60 seconds. It's a whole system that doesn't flow, and there's a proper what would be the word? I can't think, but it has an accordion or domino effect throughout the whole community. So if it's taking 27 seconds here, that guy back there is facing the same thing until it doesn't move. And that type of analysis isn't correct. I got to look into it, but I can't believe that that's how you should look at things.
Well, we lived in West Salem, my wife and I, in an apartment there in 2012. And I can tell you it was a lot longer than 27 seconds. I was sitting on that bridge every morning and every evening. And it's just hard on a young family if at the end of the day you're not at home, not because you have work to do or you have somewhere else to go, but just because you're sitting in traffic on the bridge.
You can't count on getting there.
Yeah.
It was interesting this morning, Commissioner and I were at and the mayor was the MC. Did you hear what he said, the first thing he said? He basically was teasing Kurt Arthur for inviting him to get up at 6 o'clock in the morning to talk to a whole bunch of business people. And I can't remember all the things he said, but it was in the context. And he goes, you guys, this may be a little bit easier than what I have to do Monday night with my city councilors or something like that. It was it's on CCTV as well. So He's not pulling any punches either. He knows how important this is. It's just, there's, I think, 5 or 6 people that for some reason have been convinced in their minds that they want to stop all growth, and then by not building a bridge, that it'll slow down growth, and they'll put people on bikes and make them walk. And, you can only build so many units downtown in this core. And I support that, the apartments, the South Block, the new apartments that are going on the end of Court Street. I sat with a gentleman who's building that project this morning. I think that's 20 units. I support those things that are infilling in downtown, but you can't, when you have a state capital here, more people commute into Salem to work here from outside than actually, live here. So we've got to have the traffic, the infrastructure to get people in and out. So, well, we're just talking to ourselves, I think, because, there's some people out here. There may be some people on, Facebook Live listening. So.
Yeah, it's lighting up, I'm sure.
Yeah, yeah. Anything else that was fun? I'm looking forward to going to Woodburn today and having some Mexican food. Anything else happened this week? We had, between
busy.
last Wednesday and,
It's been busy.
yeah. I think we're good, right?
There's always things to talk about, let's just leave it there.
Yeah, that's the most important thing right now. Okay, well, we have nothing else to talk about and everything to talk about, but we're going to adjourn.